So in the 60s and 70s, your bank account presented itself in the form of a passbook. And you'd have to go along to the branch. Some of you may be old enough to remember this. I'm not going to admit that, but you have to go along to the branch and you have to get your interest payments made as an entry into the passbook. Then in the 80s, your bank account presented itself as a checkbook. And you would use this artifact, the checkbook, to make your payments out of your bank account. And you'd have to balance the checkbook at the end of the month. Some of us still use checks, apparently, but they're a dying breed. Then in the 90s, we started to carry our bank around in our pocket in the form of a plastic card. At first, it was a magnetic stripe-based ATM card, and then later it was a chip card that we put in our pocket. Now, all of these devices were designed to give us access to our money on a day-to-day basis. But the bank account of the future won't be a physical artifact like any of these. It will be your mobile phone. Why? Well, the mobile phone has the ability to provide you with all of those same characteristics in terms of the functionality of the passbook, a checkbook, a debit card, but also to connect you with your money in a way none of these banking artifacts ever could before. The mobile phone allows you to give you a different connection with your money. Now, I'm not talking about shrinking internet banking onto a small screen on the mobile phone. I'm not talking about trying to shove a card into a mobile wallet. Those are fairly clumsy attempts at trying to adapt banking to mobile. And that's the first generation of the way we've adapted to mobile. The real opportunity lies in changing the context of your money, improving the performance of your savings, changing the context of a payment, giving you control every time you need to make a payment decision which could affect your financial health. Now, if you go to a merchant today, and most people do at least once a day, they pull out their card, and what feedback can the card give you? At best, it can only give you two pieces of information, whether the transaction is approved or declined. In that respect, compared with a device like your mobile phone, this plastic's looking pretty dumb. It doesn't give you a lot of technology, a lot of feedback. So any bank still issuing a plastic card as their primary banking mechanism today, even if they've got a mobile app, they really don't understand the potential of mobile in the banking experience. Mobile's really about connecting you with your money in a different way. From giving you your balance before a transaction and then after a transaction, to changing your behaviour in respect to the way you spend and save, mobile is going to fundamentally change the way you think about your bank account and the way your relationship with your bank is exhibited. So at Moven, we started out with this goal, to design a banking service with context, low friction, and a powerful real-time feedback loop that helped you understand the context of day-to-day payment decisions and connect you more intimately with your money, and of course with a cool user experience. This is not mobile internet banking, it's not a mobile wallet, it's not PFM. This is context of money on a day-to-day basis. So let me show you the prototype of our product. Now, just to clarify first, we're using PayPass's contactless sticker form for the release of the product initially in the United States. We have secure element support as well, but out of the gate, given that there's a lot of iPhones in the market and so forth, we've chosen to go with the PayPass standard. So we start off, obviously, mobile is at the center of what we do. We encourage this gamification element to the interactions at each stage. So when you walk into a store, you get now the contactless interaction piece. And as the transaction takes place, you now get real-time feedback, not just on the individual transaction, but we can tell you how much you've spent at that merchant, how much you've spent within the category, if you've passed over a preset limit. This is really what PFM was designed for. Only about 10% of the population does any sort of budgeting, are disciplined enough to do budgeting. This takes the discipline out of this. Think about a scenario like this. Think about going to a coffee shop in the morning. You go to your coffee bean or tea leaf, your Starbucks, you buy a cappuccino and a croissant. And if I ask you how much you spend on that, you might think £4 or £5. If I ask you how much you spend each month on coffee, You might guess maybe £50. So when this receipt tells you you've spent £130 at Starbucks this month, that's a surprise. That's because these discretionary spending decisions you make every day are unconscious, and you have no idea in reality how much these spending decisions build up. So now we can start to gamify this. We can start to say, well, if you want to save as per your target, and by 17th of February, if you spend $238 or less, you'll meet your savings goal that you've set. And then we build a social layer into this as well. So P2P, instead of friction of an ACH or a SWIFT payment, you can pay by Facebook or you pay by mobile. I select my friend. I default to the usual $200. I'm going to send Scotty some money. I have to put in my one-time password for this, and then I can, again, categorize this spend or this transfer based on what I'm sending here. So this real-time classification then allows us to do gamification, allows us to understand your spending habits and teach you what is a good and bad spend. We can then click on the interface. We can see discretionary spend. At a glance, we see the word cloud, which helps us understand at a glance how you're using your money on a day-to-day basis. Now, in terms of the design framework, obviously we started with mobile. So when we go to a tablet experience, for example, everything looks very much like it's built from the ground up around the mobile space. Just like we had with the mobile, this has informed the design then in terms of the experience on the tablet-ready mobile experience. So mobile's at the core of the way we've developed this solution, but it's really about changing your connection with your money on a day-to-day basis. It's about helping you understand each individual payment decision and how that's going to impact your bank balance on an ongoing basis. But really, the sweet spot about this is teaching you what is a good spend versus a bad spend. And that's Moven. Thanks very much.